Hi, and welcome back to Ask a Monk. Today we have a question from German 1184. Yuttadhammo, how much emphasis does your tradition put on book learning? In Tibet, the practice seems to have much memorization of root texts and commentaries and the debating upon them. Some people approach the practice in this way. What do you think? Well, I think that no one would disagree that book learning has its place. I've often complained that even in the tradition that I follow, in many of the traditions of Buddhism, there is too much of an emphasis on textual study as an end more than a means. And ideally, we see textual study as similar to studying a roadmap, learning about the path, about the way we're going to go. Or a modern example would be learning how to drive a car. So you can study a roadmap as much as you want. You can learn how to drive. You can learn everything, all the tricks of the road, everything there is to know about traveling. But if you never take the journey, you'll never get anywhere. And I think this has to be said about textual study. Now, there is some argument to be made for the intellectual appreciation of the teachings, the understanding of a teaching intellectually, and the ability to use the teachings directly as you're studying them to examine yourself. And there is, to a certain level, this is possible. It's possible that as you're reading a teaching, or as you're listening to a talk, that you're actually also reflecting on the teachings and using them practically. But as I said, I think there are many traditions and not exactly traditions, I would say monasteries, teachers, being more specific than talking about any specific type of Buddhism. But there are many Buddhists who like to get together in a group and debate or study or discuss a teaching, and think of that as a fundamental part of their practice. It's useful to an extent, but if you find a group or a teacher who is only going so far as to give textual study, then you have to say that there is something missing from the teaching. In the end, studying as an end simply makes you better at studying. The more you study, the better you are at memorizing, the better you are at logic, at being able to assimilate teachings and make sense of words and the syntax and so on, and assimilate it into your brain and get the concepts. And it can make you a good teacher. It can make you very confident of yourself because of your learning. If you're good at debate, when you practice debate, it just makes you better at debate. It makes you more skilled at argument, at winning people over, at explaining things to people, at being able to reply to criticisms and so on. But until you practice meditation, the only way you're going to get better at understanding reality is to look at reality. Neither of these things, study, debate, or any of the other associated activities, helps you to understand reality. The only way you can get better at seeing reality for what it is to look at it, is to train yourself. So the meditation is a very specific action where we're training ourselves to see things as they are. It's a training. It's not intellectual. It's not a realization that comes to you. It's a change in the way you look at things. So instead of seeing things as me, as mine, as good, as bad, you actually see them. You're actually able to experience something simply as it is. When you see something, you only see it. When you hear something, you only hear it. When you feel pain, there's only the pain. When you feel happy, there's only the happiness, and so on. And so it's a skill rather than, it's nothing that can come from someone else. It's nothing someone else can teach you. They can only teach you the way of developing the skill, and it's up to you to develop this skill until you're able to do it for yourself. Once you're able to see reality for what it is, only then can you say that you'll actually be free from suffering. There's only one way to realize the truth of the Buddha's teaching, and that's through the practice. So I hope that makes sense. I think it's generally understood that this is the case, that there are three parts to the Buddha's teaching. There's study, and you study for the purpose of practicing, and you practice for the purpose of realization. So there's the study, the practice, and the realization. So I would say there's no place for the accumulation of book knowledge. Knowledge is for the purpose of practice. If it's not practical, if it's not something that you intend to use, either to, or to help someone else, then it really isn't a Buddhist learning. Buddhist learning is for the purpose of putting it into practice, for the purpose of realizing the truth. If it's not something that leads you to realize the truth, then it's also not considered to be proper learning in a Buddhist sense. Okay, so hope that helps. Thanks for the question.